welcome to episode 83, part 3 of Africa's premier sports video podcast, the 3 Quarters podcast. Also remember to jump onto the hashtag Road to Japan to support the Kenya Simbas as they are still looking to qualify for the Rugby World Cup in 2019 in Japan. I'm Denimo Duffield.
And I'm Ngara Kamuya.
So, what's happening in football?
I like how you started that one. I mean, the Premier League, by the time this episode is going to be out, the Premier League season will be maybe 2 days away. The 2018-2019 Premier League season. And of course, with that, we're in August. Deadline day is over, August 31st. But before then, all teams are looking to make trades, to beef up their teams before the new season. And that's the action that's happening right now. So in the past 1 week, the one that has been very that has been very significant has been Arturo Vidal. Arturo Vidal, the Chilean midfielder, moving from Bayern Munich to Barcelona. I don't think it's a plus for Vidal, in all honesty. I think Vidal has lost, in terms of market value, he's lost it over the last few years. I mean, Chile didn't make it to the World Cup. And then he's going to Barcelona, where he's going to be muscling it out with Ivan Rakitic, who's just had a brilliant World Cup, and Sergio Busquets, who's, Barcelona through and through. So unless something magical happens, I think Arturo Vidal should prepare for the bench. But look, that has been the biggest move. I think the biggest news that has happened in the past week is that Unai Emery, the head coach at Arsenal, the manager at Arsenal, has given Danny Welbeck the permission to leave the club. Danny Welbeck, in his 3 or 4 years or 5 years that he's been at Arsenal, he's been unable to secure stats as he would have wanted to. I think in between injuries and not being preferred. I think the guy started maybe 50% of the games he's played at Arsenal. So he's been given the go-ahead to look for other guys. And it's unfortunate for Danny Welbeck. He was a talent at Man United. I think he was unable to reach the heights that he should have at Arsenal because of his injury problems. But it's sport. What do you do? So, what do you do? Those are the two main things.
So we move on to basketball. Where all talk is on LeBron James. And the debate has quickly moved to him being the greatest of all time based on this. So he went back to his hometown in Ohio to welcome the inaugural class of I Promise School. And this is a program, for the selected children, random process of course, which gives them free education, free uniform, free meals, free snacks throughout the day, a bike, a helmet, and in this day and age, you also get a Chromebook. So beat that.
I mean, first I must say that it's a very good move from LeBron James. For those guys who follow basketball, they know the tough upbringing that LeBron James had. I watched his interview and he said that on some occasions he never knew if he could make it to school. Like, that's how poor they were. And the teachers actually used to tell that his mom, that when this guy comes to school, he's one of the best, but that's if he makes it to school. He was unable. I mean, in 1 year he missed 80% of the school year, and that was because he used to live on the other side of town, the poor side of town. So there's a family that took him in and really supported him throughout his school years, the Walker family. And we all know what has happened to LeBron James after that. He was drafted right out of high school. He's been consistent. He's been the top player in the league for the last 10 years, and he's been without a scandal. He's been spotless. His career has been, up there. And then he goes and does this, which is a very good move because it's funny. Just before this thing came out for LeBron, I was having a discussion with someone who was in the US for the 7th Rugby World Cup. And they were saying that they were shocked at how the Black American community has been affected really in the States, with what happens in the States. And we went back to, like, in terms of activism, like back in the year, yes, we used to have the Jesse Jacksons and the guys who used to stand up for the black community. While you might not have that much right now, you feel that the sports people, because of the role models and the artists, are the guys to pick that up. And the person who's done it the best, I think, is LeBron James. And one of the things I think now that goes on is what he's done in Akron, Ohio with his school. So the debate quickly shifts to greatest of all time. And the reason why many people are saying that is because they're comparing him to Muhammad Ali, taking a stance on social issues. while I understand where they come from, I don't side with that side of the debate, because look, we're talking about sport. While you appreciate the fact, and yes, you feel that these people must take on some roles, they are role models, they should comment on social issues. We're talking about sports here, and yes, that cannot be the sole reason why you are the greatest of all time. You know, you have to compare. The reason why you have the chance to do that is because of the sport.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have to go back to the sport. And it's been very vocal. People talk about it. I mean, and it's known Michael Jordan was not anywhere close to doing this. He did not. Michael Jordan has commented under 10 times, I think, in the last 20 years on issues affecting issues affecting his community. Most recently, of course, being a reply to President Donald Trump's tweet on this whole thing. So, yeah, while I understand where people are coming from, and I understand that, yes, he's become a champion for his community, and to echo the words of former Houston Rockets forward Tracy McGrady. And Tracy McGrady said that, yes, from an overall perspective, as a human being, maybe then you can say that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. But from a basketball perspective, let's not mix the two.
Yeah.
They are two separate things. From a basketball standpoint, it's going to be very hard to beat Michael Jordan's achievements. But from a holistic, if you can call it that way, you know, the same way guys talk about Magic Johnson. You know, Magic Johnson has provided businesses that have, affected the black community in a positive way, I hope. So that's the same way you should be talking about LeBron from a general perspective.
Yeah.
But from a basketball standpoint, I don't think you should be talking about the greatest of all time. This does not amount to that in my books. I also must say that it's a master stroke. Whoever handles this PR, his public relations, is very good. It's a master stroke. At the point that they've released it, just when he's moved to Los Angeles, when that conversation now is beginning to die in terms of greatest of all time, I don't think this guy will be able to win more championships, and bam, you drop this, the conversation is back. I have to give them props. They've done their work. But all in all, forget about the issue about greatest of all time. All in all, this is a very good move.
Definitely.
From LeBron James.
I mean, seeing someone get to the heights that he's gotten to, but not forget where he's come from, and basically all the people who are going through, similar situations. Because I mean, you didn't move and then that stopped.
Yes.
The situation is still there, and until it improves, it's always good to lend a helping hand. Best thing you can do is get to the top and send a ladder down for the rest.
Exactly, and it's a good story. I mean, LeBron's story is a good story. It resonates with a lot of people from the black community. I mean,
from any community.
Yeah, from any community. And I understand where people are coming from when they put that comparison. Because if you compare even the upbringing of Michael Jordan and LeBron James, Michael Jordan had a pretty decent upbringing. Yeah. Middle class, born in New York, moved to North Carolina, would never really had these problems that LeBron James had. And then for LeBron James to do what he's done, I think the other person to do it, of course, Kevin Durant also went through that. So it's a story that resonates a lot with many people in such communities. And it does give a positive light. You're like, okay, fine, if LeBron James did it, I can also do it.
Yep.
So it's a good move. I like it, but I just don't like it in the discussion of greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Let's separate those.
Let's not get it twisted.
Let's not get it twisted. Let's separate those two.
So we move on to our bonus segment, where we are comparing basically the national the National Collegiate Athletics Association with sports, and basically how it's run in Kenyan universities. Don't laugh, very serious.
Yes.
So basically, how do we build the product being the sport, so that we can compare with what's going on in the West. So for those who do not know, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't. The national NCAA, that's easier.
Yes.
So the NCAA is a non-profit organization, which basically regulates athletes and institutions in the United States and in Canada. And do we have that here even? I know we have in certain universities. I know we've got scholarships going out. It's becoming a little more common. And back in the day, not so much. If you want a sports scholarship, move abroad. It wasn't going to happen in Kenya. But now we do see a few more people, going to school. I know even the University of Nairobi were giving out, I don't know how well that's worked, but they said they were giving out a few sports scholarships. But comment on that.
First, these are two words that for me they never marry. Non-profit and the US. they never get together. I mean, it's as capitalist as they get. And there have been debates about whether the NCAA is actually not for profit. I mean, they make a hell lot of money. And unfortunately, the athletes in the US don't get paid, or the college athletes in the US don't get paid. But that's a conversation for another day. But what these guys have been able to do is that they've been able to, sports and entertainment are the two things that bring the emotion out of our people. And they've been able to milk that very well. I just want to tell our viewers, just think about all the movies you've watched. Think about how they resonate very well with, our people resonate very well with a sports team, a college sports team. Duke, I think about Duke in North Carolina, very big basketball school. UNC Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, very big in basketball. I think about Michigan. I forgot. Is it Arizona? I think Michigan is basketball. Arizona is the football team. You know, people gravitate towards those teams, and I think what the NCAA has been able to milk a lot is the emotion that surrounds that and the commercial aspect of it. The number of guys you see. I mean, when you land in an airport in North Carolina, there are two things you see. You're seeing Duke merchandise, or you're seeing UNC Chapel merchandise. Now, they've been able to build that to a point where everyone gets interested. You can imagine the TV rights that come into it. You can imagine because of the money that goes there, these guys can be able to provide scholarships, right, to players. So how do you do it in Kenya? For example, you say, I think the only school that gives scholarships is Strathmore.
We've got people at USIU though, as well. Yeah,
I mean, small time, but okay. Actually, let me rephrase it. Let me put it this way. From a rugby standpoint, the only school we know about is Strathmore. It could be happening in other schools, in other sports, but it's not dominant. Primarily because of the way the society looks at sports in Kenya. Sports is not looked at like a job. It's not looked at like you're being serious, which is very stupid to me. That your folks can actually sit down and fine, I understand where you're coming from. Look, we're just like 2 generations from independence, so you only know about working desk job, but there are other ways to work, you know. And I think that's the first issue, because I talked to someone I remember who was gunning for some position in Kenya Rugby Union, and they were going to have a conversation with the Ministry of Education to see how they can tailor a program in which you have people coming in from high school on sports scholarships. But the ministry was shutting it down. People coming to read or to play sports. That's the comment that goes out. So I think that's the biggest problem in Kenya. It's the fact that the people who are in leadership and the people who are fixing these policies do not understand the fact that sports can actually be an employer. I think about now in rugby, like in New Zealand, TV rights has gone a very big way in promoting the sport in New Zealand. And the high school games and the university games, the college games as they call it there, are very big. These are games that are actually televised live, and families sit down and watch, what's happening. So that's another thing. Of course, it's a long shot. I mean, if we don't do it even in our big leagues, can you imagine now doing it in the smaller leagues? Yep. It used to happen at some point in high school. When I was in high school, some stations would air a few rugby games here and there for high school rugby games. But that's another angle I think that should be milked. And of course, when those two things are set into place, then of course the merchandising comes into place, and these unis are able to generate money off all this. Can you imagine Strathmore guys buying Strathmore merchandise? Hey, I was in what are they called? The guys from Chapel Tar Heels. I'm a Tar Heel. And then they associate proudly with that. So I feel that it's a space that should be tapped, just like many other spaces in the sporting world in Kenya. But you really need some solid leadership right from the top of the Ministry of Education. We need guys who can resonate.
Well, that's actually all we have time for today, but I'd love to hear other people's comments on this. Guys, remember, you can find us on social media. That is by following us on Instagram, liking our page on Facebook, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. I'm Janima Duffield.
And I'm Nara Kamuya.
And again, comment, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And we're out.